My name is Sabrina Dunn, and I chose to do my short story analysis on Lullaby by Leslie Silko. And the story surprises you when you start to read it. You expect it to be a story about how a song may have impacted a child's life, but when you begin to read, you realize that it's about a older Native woman who reminisces on her life and how her children had a great impact on her. So the story starts off with the Native woman sitting under a tree. She's in her later years of age, and she is talking about how she's wrapped up in her son's army blanket, and she begins to reminisce on when she realized, or when she was told that he had passed away because he was in the service, but she doesn't necessarily believe that he's dead. She then goes on to tell how she's married to a man who can speak great English. She cannot, sadly. So she doesn't really understand English, so he translates for her, and he has for her entire life as long as they've been married. And she then goes on to talk about her other two children that she had and how she sadly lost them to the government, I believe due to some disease maybe. And she accidentally signed some papers. She didn't know what they said because of course she couldn't speak English, and she just goes on to talk about how this was just a sad moment in her life, and she always expected to get them back, and she always fought for her kids. She always did her best to provide for them, and she just talks about how she just held this kind of, not anger, but sense of betrayal, because she, even though it was her fault that she signed the papers to give away her kids unknowingly, her husband didn't really do anything because he believed that there was nothing they could do either because she already put her signature down. But she still reminisces on those times in the past and how her children changed her life and how she loved her children and how she just learned so much throughout her life. And as you go towards the end of the story, you begin to hear her talk about how she's trying to find her husband, how they don't really have a stable financial situation, and he goes off and drinks and she has to go and find him. And this one particular night where she sits under the tree, she had just went to go look for him, and she finds him walking down the road. He's lost his memory just about it, and she has him sit under a tree, and she begins to sing a lullaby to him. And the lullaby says, "The earth is your mother, she holds you. The sky is your father, he protects you. Sleep, sleep, rainbow is your sister, she loves you. The winds are your brothers, they sing to you. Sleep, sleep, we are together always, we're together always. There never was a time when this was not so." And this lullaby is extremely important because it says, "The earth is your mother, she holds you. The sky is your father, he protects you. Sleep, sleep, rainbow is your sister, she loves you. The winds are your brothers, they sing to you. Sleep, sleep, we are together always, we're together always. There never was a time when this was not so." And this lullaby is extremely important because even though it's at the end, as you've already read the whole entire story, you begin to realize that this lullaby really explains what's going on in the story. Like, she always says that she's always with her kids even though they're not there. Her eldest son is supposedly passed away. She lost her other two children to the government, and this lullaby just holds a true significant meaning to her, and she begins to sing it to her husband as he is sadly going into his last years of life. But the story was really amazing. There are some examples of figurative language in the story, like personification, where she talks about the sun washes her anger away, and we know that the sun doesn't necessarily, well, in reality it doesn't wash the anger away, but the feeling of just being in the sun just makes her feel like all her anger and emotions are just washed away and she's cleansed. And she also talks about how nature is very important to her. Nature's brought up a lot in the story. For example, when she lost her kids, she the last place that she was with them was outside near a boulder, and she talks about how she goes back there and the dust and the pebbles were the last things they played with, how the blue sky was the last thing that they saw together and they were able to experience. So she really uses nature as a symbolism of her love and her purity with her kids. They just brought so much innocence and happiness to her life, and that is what nature does for her as well. That's where most of the story takes place, is outside. I just thought this was a really good story. I enjoyed the personification. I enjoyed the meaning that it held behind it and how important certain songs and certain memories of her life hold such a significance later on. And I really enjoyed how the main character held such a love for her children. It was very emotional, but the story was great, and I would read it again, most definitely. So thank you for listening to my analysis of this short story, and I hope you learned a little bit, and hope to see you again. Thanks!